Welcome to the Ringer WNBA show. I'm Seerat. I'll be joined later by Michael Vopel of ESPN. But right now, I wanted to do a deep dive on Paige Bueckers, who is having one of the best sophomore seasons in recent memory. Maybe the best sophomore season that we have ever seen, certainly on the offensive end. I think you can argue that. She is a fringe MVP candidate, maybe number one in the non-Asia MVP rankings. She's on an absolute tear. And I felt that her season was worthy of a deep dive. And if you're listening to this on Spotify and you are able to, I would recommend watching on video because we're going to use a lot of fun graphs. We're going to break down some clips, shot chart, things like that I think if you're listening, I still think you'll enjoy this, but I think that your experience would be enhanced if you were watching on video. That said, if you can't, I think you're going to be okay. All right, let's get into it. So for a long time, isolation was the last thing I associated with Paige Bueckers. I think that she has long felt that to use her intelligence only on her scoring ability would be too limiting. Not when she can strike panic with screens and move mountains with cuts. The famously unselfish it girl of women's basketball has always seen herself and her game in relation to others. Honestly, you could probably map the entire league via 6 degrees of Paige Bueckers' friendships. I also wonder if she's just one of those people where everybody thinks that they're her best friend, but she's not actually their best friend because you simply cannot be best friends with that many people. But for real, though, I have never seen such a precise scorer be so perfectly in tune with her teammates' needs. And for that to be what she cares about. When her coach, Jose Fernandez, tells her that she's the best player in the world, she looks perfectly unmoved. It has long been considered her greatest strength and her greatest knock. Even during what has been a torrid run, she has credited her teammates more than she has herself. But I think this year, the thing that's really interesting about her game is that the sort of familiar frustrations that you come to associate with Paige Bueckers' unselfishness have disappeared. You're not really dealing with that sort of unease of watching her and wondering, why isn't she taking over? Why are Arike and Odyssey Sims out shooting her? Why isn't the pick and roll maestro demanding more picks? Why isn't the best isolation scorer in the league isolating more? And I think that this makes sense with who Paige is, right? Like, I think she trusts her teammates, trusts the pass, trusts the process more than most. Isolation as a philosophy clearly jibes with who Beckers is, but isolation as a style of play is something that she's learning to embrace. She's isolating on over 10% of her shots this season, which is way up from 4% in her rookie year. And in the last 10 games, that number has been even higher at 14%. This, alongside her just mastery of the mid-range, have been the main contributors to this incredible clutch run that she is on. If you aren't living under a rock, you know that she is leading the WNBA in fourth quarter scoring, but she is also in the top 5 in clutch scoring as well, and in the top 3 in mid-range scoring too. And what we're seeing this season is a perfect fusion of everything that makes her great, and it has made her impossible to guard. So let's start with our first play. It was against the Tempo this past weekend where she scored 34 points, including 7 points and 3 assists in the fourth quarter. So Toronto, with Paige at the free throw line, brings a double. And she's no longer saying, oh, you're bringing a double team. Where's the immediate pass? She's saying, oh, you're sending help to my left? Okay, I'll just dribble to the right, pump fake you, and hit the contested shot. There's another play against Natasha Cloud where she actually uses her ability as a cutter and an off-ball mover to get open, and she's been very aggressive about getting open. So this is in the fourth quarter. She has Natasha Cloud top blocking her. And instead of just letting the play develop somewhere else, she's planting hard. She's spinning. She's cutting hard to get open. Then she makes Cloud think that she's going to go to the left for a jumper and a dribble handoff with Jess Shep, but she spins back around for the layup using a pet play as a counter. And even with her increased isolation dominance, she hasn't lost the patience that's a hallmark of her greatness. She cuts, she screens, she softens you up, she assesses your weak points for 3/4 of the game. And right when you've forgotten about her, when you've decided to worry more about tracking AZ Fudd's movements or Jessica Shepard's drives, Paige strikes. Take this play against Seattle. It ends with Paige coming off a handoff and hitting a contested three, but it starts with her giving up the ball, setting a screen, cutting, then passing the ball to another big. Or the shot that tied this game with 5 seconds left to go. So a lot of players, especially young players, catching the ball against Flau'jae Johnson, taking a dribble back, would have put up an uncomfortable, heavily contested shot here in fear that they weren't going to get another opportunity. But Paige here, she has the wherewithal and the stamina and the IQ to kick the ball out, get it back, drive again, and get a similar shot from a similar place against the same defender, but with a lot more space. And she hits it.
She does things every single day that, now you're not surprised anymore, right? Today, how many times has she won the half-court shot? 8, 9 times out of whatever. I should just come in every day with $100 for the day of the game and just give it to her. And she made 3 today. She's just different. She's such a competitor and a winner, and she just refuses to lose. And certain guys don't want the ball in their hands at the end or don't want to take the big shot. And she never shies away from the big moment.
I think the key here is that Paige has always seen basketball as a collective problem with a collective solution. And she's realizing this season that the ball being in her hands to end the possession is probably the best solution. And what's fun is her entire offensive philosophy here naturally peaks in the clutch because of the degree of the difficulty of the shots that she is able to make. I think that's been one of the aspects of the Paige experience that has had people clamoring to have her take the shot even when it's contested. Her coach, Jose Fernandez, is great at cutting to the heart of the matter here in this clip. Now, Jose Fernandez, Dallas's rookie head coach, is a long-time friend of Auriemma's, of Gino. Sorry, I'll do that again. Now, Jose Fernandez, Dallas's rookie head coach, is a longtime friend of Gino Auriemma, and he has helped fuse the we over me UConn egalitarianism with the WNBA's requirement for ruthless scoring. It's almost instructive to think about how hard Gino is on Paige. He doesn't think that she should ever miss a shot. And honestly, he might not be wrong. She's kind of got this Steve Nash-esque quality where she oozes so much touch when she shoots that it leaves you wondering how much more she can eke out of shooting. Like the more crazy shots she makes, it just makes you wonder what more she could do as a scorer. There's another quote too from Greg Bibb, the CEO of the Dallas Wings, where he had this long interview with WFan that we will link to in the show description. But the big thing that stuck out to me is he's talking about this play that Paige makes against a tempo. This is a tempo now 10 days ago, not the game this weekend, but she makes this play where it's just like this incredible fusion of her unselfishness, her creativity, and her IQ. So she is running a pick and roll on the side of the court with Jessica Shepard. And the tempo, like a lot of other teams are starting to do now, are focusing more on Paige than they are on Jess Shep. They've kind of keyed into the fact that she is doing everything she can to score the ball at this point. So what she does is, instead of passing the ball to Shep, she actually fakes a bounce pass and like bounces it back to herself. Like she uses a bounce pass as a dribble. It's like beyond a pass fake. Like we've seen players use pass fakes to trick players, to trick their opponents into committing to open teammates and then taking the shot. This is taking that to a different level. She actually bounces the ball on the floor at an angle, what makes it seem like it's going to go to Jess Shep. The defense commits to Jess Shep. The ball bounces back to Paige, and she's got a wide open lane to a layup. It's just incredible. I think that we need to talk about some of the stats behind Paige's dominance, and it'll show you exactly why teams are keying in on her so much. So even as Paige has taken more isolation shots, she hasn't lost a lick of efficiency. She has made more isolation buckets than anybody else in the league outside of Kelsey Plum, but she is also number one in efficiency. Like the scalability of her shot making is just incredible. And there's this, like, I'll show a shot chart per court sketch that'll show you she's shooting above average from just about everywhere on the court this season. And she's also struck a great balance between mid-range scoring and her three, which Fernandez has wanted her to emphasize. So she's taking less of those like pesky long twos, and she's stepping behind the league. She's stepping behind the line for the extra point, where she's also shooting 38%, 5 percentage points better than her last season. But she's still using that mid-ranger. She's dominating closer to the basket. She's dominating that 3 to 10 foot range and that 10 to 16 foot area of the paint, where she's getting a lot of her clutch buckets. And she's shooting a scorching 55 and 58% from those areas of the field, respectively, which actually makes her midi nearly as efficient as her three. And this is at a time when the rest of the league is really abandoning the mid-range shot and going to the three. So it gives her this perfect counter to the way modern defenses are attacking offensive players. And she's number 2 in mid-range shots made in the league. AZ, interestingly enough, is actually number 3, and she's top 3 in non-rim paint twos, behind only Stewie and Asia. And I do think I would be remiss to not mention that her ability in the post and her added strength to be able to hold space in those areas has been such a huge part of what has made this such a special season for her. Like we'll talk about this in this play against Chicago. This is in the fourth quarter where Paige drives, gets 4 defenders in the paint, and the 5th one in Natasha Cloud pointing at her, and she kicks the ball out to Enrique. But I think what's really interesting is the next play that we're going to break down here. So Paige gets the ball and is in a pick and roll against Natasha Cloud and Camila Cardoso. And the cool thing here is that she is able to like get so quickly from one side of the floor to the next that she can get the ball with 7 seconds left on the shot clock and still get into a good shot for the Dallas offense. Like, I just think that, like, she almost has this Chris Paul-esque ability of, like, having this metronome in her brain of, like, always knowing how much time there is left on the shot clock. So she's not panicked here at all. And she actually gets trapped by Cloud, who is being very, very physical with her, and takes away Dallas's first action, which is, you know, an open AZ shot with Lee Uwiru rolling and taking Sydney Taylor with her. And that breaks down. But the thing is, Paige keeps the ball. And that's what that extra muscle that she added this offseason does for her. On top of that, she drives and she never actually loses sight of where AZ Fudd is. And the second that AZ's defender, Sydney Taylor, who is now back on her, averts her eyes, AZ relocates and Paige hits her. And look, AZ only ever needs a second to get open. She nails a wide open shot, and Dallas ties the game at 86, and they eventually go on to win. And hey, that's on chemistry, right? But all of this together, it really has me begging the question. Paige is having the opposite of a sophomore slump, to the point where you have to ask, is she having the best sophomore season of all time? 23 games in, she is 23 games in, she's number 8 in points and number 4 in assists all time at this juncture for a sophomore season. The only other sophomore 23 games in to be in the top 10 in both points and assists was Skylar Diggins. And among players who are in the top 30 in scoring in this list, she is the most efficient guard, and she is surpassed in true shooting percentage only by 2 bigs in the top 30 in 6'8" Brittany Griner and 6'6" Jonquel Jones. Among players who are top 20 in assists, she has the best assist to turnover ratio as well. She's also number 1 in this category in game score, which kind of roughly predicts a player's in-game productivity, which we know that Paige is one of those players where the counting stats don't always tell the full story. But really, the only person who even comes close to matching her in this category is Cynthia Cooper, who is 35 years old in her sophomore season, which was also the sophomore season of the WNBA as a whole. So, like, this is what she's doing on the offensive end. And look, the only argument for me against this being the best sophomore season of all time is really that Paige has taken a bit of a slide on the defensive end with how much more offense she is carrying. And AZ is actually the player who is guarding, like the best offensive player on the other side of the team. And Dallas, of course, is just not the best defensive team. And some of the players that you could compare her to statistically for their second years are Breanna Stewart, Tamika Catchings, Lauren Jackson, Nafisa Collier, all of whom I think had a level of defensive impact that you would say that their seasons to this point either eclipse or were kind of on the level of what Paige is doing as a whole. That said, though, we're still just at the halfway point of the season. She is having the best offensive start to a season that a sophomore has ever had, and it's not too late to pick it up on defense. Just with everything that Paige is doing, the way that she is processing the game, I think she is actually getting better on a game-to-game basis. So I just can't wait to see what this season actually shakes out and ends up being for her. And I'll end on this. I'll end on my favorite play of the season, what has been for Paige. And it was actually the first game of the season. And it is just the perfect sort of coalescence of everything that I think has made Paige's sophomore season close to perfect. It is her chemistry with Jessica Shepard. It is her mid-range mastery in a league that's running away from it. It's her impeccable patience under pressure and the way that she just understands the shot clock. So this is in the fourth quarter against the Indiana Fever in the season opener. And there's only a little bit of time left on the shot clock. There's 5 seconds left on the shot clock. And she switched on Aaliyah Boston, who kind of thought that she had painted Beckers into a corner. But basically what happens is Beckers then lets go of the ball. And you're thinking, oh my God, Paige, you have a switch on a big. Why are you giving the ball up? But what she actually does is she gives the ball to Jess Shep. Boston, who then goes back to Jessica Shepard. Paige is open for a second. Paige relocates to the wing. Shep gives it back to her. Then you're thinking, oh, she's really going to shoot. She's only got 1 second left on the shot clock. Boston comes out to contest. Paige pump fakes, dribbles in for the mid-range jumper. She's wide open, and there isn't even a sliver of time left on the shot clock after that point. And it's at a point in the game where what Dallas is really trying to do is simultaneously kill the shot clock and get a good shot. Paige accomplishes both of those things, and she basically kills time until it's time to kill the Fever. Forgive me for that one. But really, this play was honestly I look back at it and I'm like, oh, this was an omen. This was a warning. Don't say she didn't warn you that this type of season was coming. It was just such a simple, steady, but simultaneously stunning, tickles like the ASMR part of my basketball brain. Like it's just one of those plays that you just love as a basketball nerd, and it makes her just like a fantastic, a terrestrial wonder, to be honest. And I think like the other part is like it's gutsy too. Like we don't really associate Paige's game with risk, but turning a contested three-pointer into another potential three-pointer into a wide open midi with just 5 seconds left on the shot clock, that takes a level of risk propensity. It's just a little different than what we associate with risk. And it's just all part of the package of what makes Paige so special right now. The Wings are taking on the Liberty tonight. It's going to be an awesome game. I just like can't wait to see how it shakes out. Last time the Wings and the Liberty played, it was kind of like one of those similar like, hey, when's Paige gonna like do her thing games? And she did her thing in the fourth quarter. The other time before that, AZ had a 21-point third quarter against the Liberty. Those are just always really fun games, so I'm looking forward to it.